Despite some inefficiencies and a late season ankle injury that added to that, Keyonte George was one of the most talented and effective freshmen in college basketball and helped keep Baylor one of the more competitive programs around. He didn't measure in at the combine but is listed at 6'4", and during a combine interview, Coach Scott Drew said he's down to 201 pounds from 225 stepping on campus at Waco. As for Keyonte's game, he's your classic scoring combo guard who can heat up quickly, makes tough shots, and also has some upside as a playmaker. He's got to be a lot more consistent as a decision maker and defender, and there are questions in his overall athleticism, but there's still enough there to keep him a potential lottery pick in this draft. Keyonte has the ability to be a dynamic scorer and has some of the highest upside in the class here. It's hard not to be intrigued by his pull-up game, both in and out of the pick and roll. He was a big time threat there, whether it was in the half court or off a drag screen in transition. If he saw any daylight, he was letting it fly. His creativity on the perimeter and in one-on-one situations is there, and he's capable of scoring in multiple ways and areas on the floor. Not to mention he has tremendous confidence, great footwork, and a knack for hitting tough shots, especially from long range. Now he's not the quickest, but does use change of pace and deceleration fairly well and can handle it. He loves to use all the pullback variations, step backs, and makes great use of the gather. And he did a decent job of getting to the bucket and using his craftiness along the way, though he was probably at his best there when he attacked quickly against shifted defenses. Now he's going to have to convert at a higher rate in the future, but the pieces are definitely there for him to continue getting buckets in the NBA.
But a nice job by Emmett Matthews finding the middle.
Last year, Sweet 16, the loss to Duke. George. Walsh, a five-star recruit. George trying to shake it in a three. No question. By the way, Baylor's done that great for the last 2 decades. Tough shot.
Neither do we. Neither do these kids who missed the free throws.
George, step back, three. This community, rightfully so.
Keyonte George, three. To give up an easy bucket because he's gassed.
Exactly.
George can't get past.
Tough shot.
Ooh, high one. George again. Oh boy! That's wide enough. You can hear Eric Musselman stomp on the Arkansas sideline. George!
3-point shot away from him, so he gets shot fake and just counters the defense.
Timeout. They go zone 2-3. George spot up three. Got it.
There's George. Career high 8 rebounds.
They've been on the offensive glass. They've grabbed some Arkansas turnovers. There's George.
Only the 3rd and 4th points in the paint by Northern Colorado. Runner by Keyonte.
George weaving through traffic with the leg.
George working against the defense of Shamir Bowes. Will drive, lay it up.
Foul was on the floor. George picking his spots. Here's George. George, full head of steam. And he got it!
The Bama game for them, Mark.
That was Uzan's second three, the other being the three at the end of the. George dribbles into the lane, some contact from Groves.
And nothing inside whatsoever, not a catch. This is the only way they've gotten inside. What a play.
Half start on the floor to get that steal. See if George can take it all the way in. Good hop step.
12. Christopher injury, he's got to get some minutes.
George.
We beat them head to head. He said we were excited because we had all 5 of our guys as Keyonte.
UCLA Bruin, national champion, 1995. Now George on the drive. Good footwork from the...
He's improved and he's shown what he can really do.
Keyonte George has mentioned their name. Travis Lyons, John Rhodes. There he is.
We've shown some of it off the bounce, but Keyonte also has a lot of potential as a catch and shoot guy from 3 and just an off-ball scorer in general. Mechanically, he's up there with almost anybody in this class from top to bottom. He showed great shot prep and consistency there, and whenever he got an open look, he was pretty much automatic. And he was also quietly very good at shooting on the move, showing off that ability to get organized quickly. And though the volume wasn't the highest, I think teams could use him more in this way at the next level. He's got the track record as a shooter, and he's just one of those guys I'd be comfortable with describing and projecting as a good shooter, despite some of the percentages not completely matching that right now. And while he may not be the very best, his name still belongs on the short list of best shooters in the class.
10 and goal. Out to George. Nice shot fake. Top of the key.
Pentagon in South Dakota. Zaga survived.
5 for Baylor. Damba with the handoff. George rising out, nails them.
That was about 14.
George. Right now, this is where LJ Cryer has to be that guy. That's a great find.
You know this kid? Look at the contest.
Perfect assignment, the freshman Lipsy trying to check Adam Flagler. He had 18 in the first half. Now Keyonte.
You would think the guy who's only in his 4th year playing organized basketball would be. Big bucket by George.
George under an easy basket for Baylor. A huge.
Keyonte was also impressive as a playmaker throughout the year, making plays in a variety of ways, even as he played most of his minutes in 3-guard lineups. He had a solid grasp of his options in the pick and roll, making the basic reads, playing with a good pace, often finding his roll man, and being at his best against drop or less aggressive coverages. And of course, him being a threat as a scorer here makes things a lot easier. In addition to that, some of the super quick decisions and moments fitting the ball in a tight window were impressive at different points of the year, and he also had some good plays in transition and liked using that left hand. Now we'll get into some of the stuff he'll need to improve on because there is a solid amount of it, but there was also reason for a lot of optimism and confidence that he'll be able to take on at least some level of playmaking responsibilities in the NBA.
Trailed by 3.5. Here's George splitting the defense, pass to the corner to Flagler.
And all of a sudden, this West Virginia offense can't miss. 6 for their last 6.
But they're on their butts. They're used to it.
Pass, LJ
Cryer play catch outside the arc. Now to Keyonte George. Into the corner. Cryer for 3.
Guard with just jets to work on. 24th in the nation in assist to turnover ratio is Thomas.
Oh, you know, his father can still get buckets. If you ask his father,
Whoa,
that's a perfect example.
Good start.
Thamba back to George. Right back to Thamba. Nice.
And be able to have that upper hand. Oh, good pass.
Woo, nice pass. Final 35 seconds of the half.
Wow.
Nice pass. Pass to George, nearly stolen. Nice pass to
Cryer has George up ahead. Back to Loner, in for 2.
They're looking for Kaluma. Back the other way. Here come the Bears pushing in.
George with a rebound. Has Cryer to the side. Good bounce pass to LJ Cryer. His first 2 of the night.
Now getting into the improvement areas, Keyonte had a very interesting season defensively. He had a lot to like, but there were also some glaringly bad moments, creating a pretty wide range of impact depending on the game. But starting on the good side of things, he's a more capable lateral mover than maybe you'd assume, and I liked what he did at the point of attack for the most part. He cut off drives, he took some charges on ball, and at times showed off a tenacity that was really encouraging. He had a pretty good steal rate, came up with a handful of deflections, and made some plays and rotations and help that were impressive as well. Now he's not the most versatile defender, and I'm really curious what his wingspan is, but he at least showed enough to feel pretty good about his upside and ability to hold his own, especially when compared to others of a similar archetype in the league right now. But on the negative side of things, he had far too many moments where he just let guys walk right past him to the bucket or got sloppy on a closeout, leading to easy opportunities. And then off the ball, he had a habit of ball watching, losing his man, and also gambling or overhelping more than you'd like to see. It's hard to fully explain unless you watched him throughout the season, because a game like at Kansas, you'd think he's one of the worst defenders in the draft. But if you saw him in other games like at Texas Tech or even the last one against Creighton, you'd probably end up fairly high on him. A lot of this stuff can be cleaned up and masked, especially with the right personnel around him, but he's got to be more consistent and just weed out these low moments over time. It's tough to put a concrete assessment or a projection on him here. I could see it going both directions, but there were a good deal of positives that shouldn't be ignored.
Against North Carolina in the NCAA tournament.
Whoa! Cross-court pass going up to get that one is Beekman.
Dane has really changed his body and is getting a lot of minutes.
The first good shot, and if it's a 3, that's even better.
Beekman offensive.
3 seconds to shoot. Rasir Bolton off the top of the.
You like to change though, just to try to slow him down. Ultimately, they'll go to man out of it, but right now,
If you're going to trap a ball screen, you can't allow a split.
50% offensive rebound rate is going to be hard to beat. Henneford around George.
You see Bona back in with that one foul. Nice.
Bailey driving, missing at the rim.
Harris looks off the defender.
In every other area, just cannot buy a 3.
Here's Spencer drives in.
Get it to him.
Dangerous pass, but it's paid off. And Flagler coming off the bench for him.
Sure. Good move to the
Distance here for Baylor. Plenty of time here to work with. Alexander working off of it. Finds Farrell.
Rebounds, right? You give a team a second chance.
That's where there's that great slip by Hill.
Good ball movement. There's another cut.
I think it's pivotal for young players. You have to come out and attack right away.
George went for the steal there, didn't get it. Groves 3.
What is probably the biggest improvement area for him is his overall decision making. He took a lot of wild and difficult shots, whether it was early in the clock or just heavily contested, and though he convinced me more of his ability to create shots on the perimeter and be less concerned with the burst, he still isn't the quickest and was susceptible to settling for whatever they were giving him or forcing him into if he didn't have an immediate look or angle. And in the process, he also missed too many of his teammates, especially on drives. The playmaking flashes were there, as we pointed out, but on the other side of that, he'd miss these routine reads, telegraph passes, get tunnel vision, and force some shots into offensive fouls. And teams started to pick up on that, looking to speed him up and apply pressure, whether it was in the pick and roll or even being super aggressive one pass away and help, knowing that he may not burn you with the kick out. And it resulted in some pretty bad plays. So for him, it's just better picking his spots and making the correct play more often, and also limiting the easy turnovers and errant passes to expand on the clear creation upside that he does have.
Playing good defense on Timmy.
To George. Will drive, strip to the ball.
Pressure. George.
Bought into this Baylor program early on.
There's that hard hedge again. Oh!
Missed the big man.
In the game. The thing that makes it so interesting is that it doesn't threaten the other national.
Iowa State has won both of the matchups. There's a
Looking for win number 13 on the season. And looking tonight gives Baylor an extra day of rest.
George. Good help. That's the help.
He shot just about 52% at the rim total and had a similar number in the half court. And this was a combination of his lack of explosiveness in traffic and some of his decision making. Now I will say he never really shied away from contact and got to the line at a high rate that helped counteract some of this, and he already does a good job of selling calls and using his body, so I'm not as concerned with him here as I might be for some others. I'm not one to put too much stock into workouts, but he was moving better than we'd seen him in the past. Maybe some of those explosiveness questions aren't as prominent, but those were underlying throughout the year, specifically here.
Here comes George again, getting off the screen from Florida, and he goes off.
George will finish it.
He's one of the 5 most consequential coaches in the league.
Baylor just 29% from the floor. They can't get it to George. He finally goes back and draws the foul.
Keyonte has a ton of potential as that scoring combo guard that, though can be flawed at times, has been very effective and well paid over the last several years, and I think high level starter to maybe borderline all-star is a possibility at his best as a potential third or maybe second option. I think the biggest factor for him is just how effective a scorer and creator he is, but the consistency on defense and in his decision making will have a big say in him seeing the floor and how good he is as well. And for all that, I think it'll land him somewhere between the late lottery and the late teens, maybe top 20-ish, with teams like Orlando still being a good fit, whether that's at 11 or in a trade back. I like Toronto in the late lotto, and then Miami feels like a really nice spot for him, especially for all his improvement areas, including the physical and athletic aspects. I think there are some real similarities between him and Eric Gordon, from the build to their dynamic and confidence as scorers. Gordon was a pretty good perimeter defender at his best when engaged. The decision making was a little spotty too. Keyonte probably won't do what Gordon was doing on the Clippers to start, but I do like it. I think it's there. He's also reminding me of Jaden Hardy for a while. That one doesn't make sense given they're a year apart, but there are some similarities there too. Keyonte George is one of the most talented scorers and creators this class has to offer. While not without flaw, that ability to shoot it from 3 and create off the dribble and make a play is what makes him a potential lottery pick for me. He's got to be more consistent and engaged in certain areas, and I do wonder some about the amount of tough shots that he took, but I think his talent is hard to pass up, and shot making should still be valued in the draft at a certain point